You know, just like chainsaws and fast cars, a gun can be a great tool. It can be a lot of fun, but it's also inherently dangerous. That's why it's very important to follow the gun safety rules, as shown to us here by our good friends at Patriot Patch Company. Remember, be safe, not sorry. One thing, though, about the Star BM9 that is not excellent, by my standards, is the fact that it has a magazine disconnect safety. That was all the rage back in the late 70s, early 80s. But then you put a magazine in, of course, and you'll see that it'll drop the hammer. So the other byproduct of that, or side effect of that, is that the magazine basically won't drop free. So that is easy enough to take care of on this particular pistol. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to remove the disconnect safety, even though that will make the condition of the pistol somewhat altered. It's going to make it a lot more fun to shoot. All right, there we go, boys and girls. Magazine disconnect safety has been removed, so now we can fire the gun, if we want to, without a magazine in, and magazines will drop nice and free. But the other thing you benefit from that is a little bit nicer trigger pull. Yeah. Okay, let's see if the Star BM9 will shoot and how it shoots, if it does. I presume that it does. I've seen a lot of people that have already gotten these and done a review on them. They seem like they perform pretty well. So hopefully this copy is no exception to that. This is, of course, a single action only firearm. I'm just 70 yards away from that target. See if I can put a hole in it in an impressive looking spot. Okay, that's certainly not bad, is it? Mags drop nice and free without that magazine disconnect safety in there. I'll tell you what, it's a just that first magazine, very first impression. Feels very nice to shoot this gun. It's got a nice balance to it, very nice balance. Feels good in hand, of course, because it is, after all, almost a 1911. Of course, it's got that sort of humped back. Right? It's almost Glock-like in shape on that back strap. I get it out here in the daylight, I can definitely see a little bit more of the wear marks on it, more of the holster wear where the bluing's been rubbed off and so forth. So I believe this was a handgun that got some time on the job. The sights are very basic, of course, but they work. There is sometimes something to be said for a very basic sight picture. There's a double feed, or actually a failure to extract is what that is. So let's clear this. So if you want to clear a jam like this, got a case that did not extract, you want to lock the slide back, remove the magazine, and then in this case the case does just fall right out. But if I needed to, I could reach in there and pull it out. It was already halfway extracted, so no extra charge for the lesson. Alright, so we got, looks like 3 rounds left in here. What do you think? Was that me? Was I holding back on the slide or something? It's very possible. I'm trying to get a feel for just how to have my grip on this gun. I'm going to talk about the hammer and the beaver tail in a moment. Meanwhile, I'll try to be careful not to cause any malfunctions myself. But I was talking about this sight. Ah, darn it. It's 2 in a row, and I don't think I did anything wrong there. I think we could have an extractor that's not the best. It looks sharp enough. And the extractor is definitely where it belongs. So the hook of the extractor is definitely where it belongs on the cartridge. Let's see. Alright. Alright, and that was this magazine. So I'm going to put this magazine in a different pocket. See if there's a way to mark it. Okay, to help you with your reference for the condition of these pistols, if you have one, if you are planning to get one, or if you're just interested, they come in a lot of various conditions, of course, because they are surplus. They are military and law enforcement pistols. They were duty guns. Many of them spent their life in an armory, and some of them spent their life in a lot of duty holsters and so forth. So they're going to be in a lot of various different conditions. Some of them were probably dedicated range and practice guns, and they're probably in the worst condition because they would have been handled and fired continuously. However, they are marked for us. The importer marks them, in this case, with a V for very good. You could have a G for good. I think an F for fair. I'm not exactly sure. If I find the exact markings that you'd want to look for, I'll post that. But I do know V is very good. E would be excellent, or perhaps X is excellent. I think it might actually be X for excellent. But there are markings available on these pistols. They are basically just rated by the importer, so it's a judgment call by the people that imported them. They do a quick inspection and they rate them on that scale. So the one you're going to be seeing here is rated as very good condition. And this one came in the plastic case. Some of them come in a cardboard box. I honestly have no idea if one has more value or meaning than the other. You know, it could be a eye of the beholder type of thing, but you can see the logo in the plastic and the emblem and so forth. I'll put something behind that a little bit so you can see it. There you go. So you've got this plastic box. The owner's manual. All of the pistols will come with an owner's manual. They are all in Spanish, so if you don't know any Spanish, like I don't know, I usually need help ordering at a Mexican restaurant, so that's not going to do me much good. I got an extra magazine with mine, so I have 2 magazines, which is good because that's going to make shooting it a little more pleasant. I have already deinstalled the safety for the magazine disconnect. You saw me do that. And it comes with this little rod. I guess I could have used this screwdriver end right here to take the grip panels off, but it comes with this little cleaning rod. You put your patch through that notch right there, or through that hole. You would put your patch. So it's basically a tool and cleaning rod combo. So that's how it comes. Okay, I marked my two magazines, 1 and 2. It was number 2. The one I have marked as number 2 was the one that was in the gun when I had those malfunctions. Certainly not going to accuse it of causing them at this point. Real quick, before I put this mag in, it's going to be hard to see with my glove on. I'll take my glove off in a minute and show you this, but one of the things you have to be a little bit concerned about with this gun is hammer bite. This is copying a very old design. These guns were made between 1972 and 1992. So, you know, certainly by 1972 even, you know, everybody knew about hammer bite, and beaver tails on 1911s were much better than they were on the original government model. However, they chose here to copy that sort of original style. So you don't have a whole lot of beaver tail there, and if you want to get a high grip and you've got any kind of meat or fat on your hand, you want to get that web of your hand, the skin starts to creep up over that beaver tail a little bit, which is easy to do even with my hands. You are very susceptible to getting some hammer bite. I'll take my glove off and show you that. Just to show you when the slide is running back, how close that hammer comes to my hand, even when I'm holding underneath the beaver tail. Sorry, that was a really long explanation for something you may probably not care about at all. All right, let's go some more with this thing and just see how it continues to run. So I'm going to be careful too with my grip. I'm going to try and make sure that I'm not putting any undue pressure where I shouldn't. So I was talking about these sights, or trying to. The front sight is a serrated ramp, just black, and the rear is just a notch. It's a very tight notch. So there's almost no airspace at all on either side of the front blade. But it's actually a very functional sight for this distance. I mean, you get this thing out 25 yards or more, it would be a little challenging, but in here at a 7-yard combat distance, it's a good sight. Okay, another one. And this is with the other magazine. All right, so we got what, one round left. Yeah, well, see that last round? Shooting it with one hand, which maybe is a little bit of limp wristing. That last one did not want to extract. I think we may have an extractor problem. Going to take a look at that. We'll take a look at that at some other point. Hopefully I can squeeze a few more rounds through this thing though, just to have a little bit of fun. There is rain on the way today, so I got to get my work done and get out of here before my cameras get wet. So there are a bunch of these Star BM9s that were imported recently. I know a lot of people have talked about them. A lot of gun channels have done reviews on them. I particularly enjoyed watching the late Boy Scout do his. I think I watched that video all the way through. So I recommend that one. All right, so opposite situation magazine-wise, as far as which one had malfunctions and which one didn't. So I really don't think it's a magazine issue. I think it's very likely an extractor issue, or maybe could be a shooter issue. We don't want to talk about that. So the only mechanical issue that I have seen so far with this pistol is with the barrel link pin, which is also the pivot pin for the slide stop, which is also the takedown pin. And it's really that latter point that causes it to be a problem. And it's just that it's really loose. And if you have your finger up here on that, and that protrudes pretty extensively here on the right side of the frame, and just your finger wants to gravitate to it, and it's a great index point to keep your finger in a safe position. However, if you do that and you run the slide, let me show you, you were very likely to push the pin out. See that? Just by having my finger on there, I pushed the pin out. So all right, so that's back in. So you got to be really careful and not put your finger on that pin, or you could disassemble your pistol while you're shooting it. It's that loose on this one. It just pops right out with even the slightest amount of pressure. So I'm going to have to be really careful when I get this thing out and shoot it, because that's, like I say, that your finger just wants to gravitate right to that pin and rest on it. So I'm going to have to really, really watch myself, because I don't want to train myself to do this with the gun, because that's not something I want to do. I don't want to get in that habit. So I guess I'm going to have to try and come way up here with it when I shoot. But that's the only concern that I have. Mechanically, otherwise it is very sound and in very good condition. Let's measure this trigger pull, because it feels quite nice. It is sort of a 1911 style trigger in looks, but I'll show you in a minute, not in function. 4.64, so that's actually not 4 pounds and 6.4 ounces. So just a little bit over 4 pounds. And that kind of quantifies what I feel. Now, one of the things I was mentioning about the trigger, it looks like a 1911 trigger. Gun looks like a 1911 gun, and in some ways it is, in some ways it's not. Looking at the trigger, it looks like, hey, that's a 1911 trigger, but it's really not. Watch. You see how it pivots from the top. 1911 trigger has a bow that moves straight back, and this is a hinged trigger that pivots. So even though it looks and in many ways feels like a 1911 trigger, it's not. But it's got such a short stroke, and it is so crisp and light that even shooting it, hard to tell the difference. Or I haven't shot it yet, but in dry fire, it's hard to tell the difference. And it's got a really nice short reset. Let's look at that. How's that? Nice, huh? Yeah. So it's going to be very interesting to get this out and shoot it. I'm really looking forward to how that's going to feel. Well, everything else works on the pistol really well, except for the possibility of an extractor problem, but the ejection is good. It's throwing, I'm shooting Herder's Select, which is fairly, I've always found to be fairly peppy ammo, and it's shooting it about, or throwing that brass about, you know, maybe 5 yards to my right, and pretty much straight to my right as well. It's not over my shoulder very much. Everything else is working really good. Let me show you real quick. I've taken my gloves off. I'll show you, if I just hold this thing with a fairly conservative grip below that beaver tail there, all right, you can see that, all right, that looks like a pretty decent amount of airspace, doesn't it? But watch when this slide runs back, how close that comes. So if you've got any flesh sticking up over the top of that beaver tail, there's a good chance you may experience some hammer bite. So be careful. So anyway, these guns are, well, at the moment, they're probably still available. You know, check with your local gun dealer or maybe some of your online sellers. But they will eventually all be sold out and run out, and they'll be resold probably at a higher price. So you can get them now at a good price, you know, in the $200 to $300 range. So if you shop around, this one is in very good condition according to the distributor rating. You probably can find a whole bunch of them that are considered good condition that should be also very functional, probably just not quite as nice cosmetically. All right, let's try a different area of the target. Try the safety as well. It does have a thumb safety. It is a little bit stiff and sharp and tough on the skin, but I'm going to try the A-zone on the head of this target. I'm going to do it without gloves, and I'm going to try not to get hammer bite. It ergonomically is a very nice little pistol. I like it. It feels good to shoot. Like I was saying, it's got good balance. It handles the recoil nicely. The recoil doesn't feel at all sharp. Of course, it is an all steel gun too, so you do have a little bit of weight there to help absorb that energy. The recoil spring seems really well matched to the gun. So it's got a nice feeling action, just snaps right back. The trigger feels good. Feels 1911-ish, even though it is a pivoting trigger. All right, we got through all our mags there. Maybe it was my gloves. Who knows? So like I said, the magazines hold 8 rounds, and I just put 2 left. So this is the, these are 2 rounds, will make 50 that I've shot today. It's a full box of Herder's Select. Just go one-handed. See how the gun feels. Just has a nice feel to it. Just has a good shooty feel. I like it. So this Star BM9 is an interesting little pistol. It's definitely a very collectible little gun. It's affordable for a collector. So if you are thinking about wanting to collect handguns or firearms in general that, you know, have some interest, have, you know, kind of a little bit of a story behind them and so forth, but you don't have all kinds of money to spend, this is a really nice start. It's sort of the collector's starter kit right here, the Star BM9. It's a nice little pistol, and the cool thing about it is you can shoot it. You know, it's a nice little shooter, and you know, you're not really going to hurt the value of it by bringing it out and shooting it, because these things have got a bazillion rounds through them potentially anyway. So as long as you take care of the finish, you know, and maintain it, oil it, and you know, maintain it like you would any good quality gun that you care about, you're really not going to hurt the value. Value's still just going to only go up. So it's a good investment, I think, from that perspective. Man, it's a heck of a shooter. You know, I was only 7 yards away from my target, so I wasn't stretching it or me by any means, but it made really nice groups, and I have no doubt this thing is capable of shooting better than I'm capable of shooting it. So it's a good gun in that respect. Watch out for hammer bite. That is one little caveat, but you know, wear gloves. That takes that problem away. But there you go. That is my little take on the Star BM9. I think it's an awesome little pistol. It's an affordable, collectible item. Got a little bit of conversation piece quality to it, and I think if you see one, you should think about picking it up. Thanks as always for watching. You can find the Just an Opinion channel also on Facebook and on Patreon as well, if you are so inclined. Thanks again.